There was no sound in the darkness of the night. Only the wind, moving through the leaves of the ancient oak trees like a mother rocking a child who had long since ceased to breathe. Thomas knelt in the dirt. His small bare feet had sunk into the cold Virginia earth. He held no shovel, no lantern, no tool of any kind. Only his fingers, which moved across the ground as if they were reading a language written in soil. He whispered, "Here." Behind him stood a white woman. The captain's wife. Her face in the moonlight was pale as bone. "This is it," she breathed. "Yes?" How old was she? 12 years. Her name was Lucy. The woman closed her eyes. Her lips trembled. Her fingers found the crucifix at her throat and held it like a lifeline. "And the others?" she asked. Thomas raised his hand slowly. He pointed to the right. There, beneath the oak, 7 graves. 1823 to 1831. Then to the left. There, near the creek, 11 graves. 5 of them children. His voice carried no emotion. Not pain, not anger, not grief. Only fact. The woman stared at him. "How do you know all this, Thomas?" He did not answer. He only looked at the ground. The ground that had swallowed his mother. The ground that had eaten his sister. The ground he himself had dug with his own hands, at 12 years old, to bury his father. He was only 16. But he carried every hidden grave on the plantation engraved upon his heart, Virginia. The night was cold. No rain fell, but the dampness settled into the bones. Martha gave birth. The child was silent. No cry. No sound. The midwife slapped his small back, but the infant remained still, his eyes wide and dark, staring at something no one else could see. The midwife whispered, "This child is deaf." Martha pulled the boy to her breast. She kissed his small head. She said, "No. He hears. He simply does not wish to speak." But the midwife did not listen. White people never listened to slaves. They named him Thomas. Thomas Hale. Captain Hale looked at the child and turned away. "A mute," he said. "He is worth nothing. He cannot hear commands." His wife, whose name was Elizabeth, sat silent. She looked at the child. Something moved in her eyes, pity? Curiosity? Perhaps both. But she said nothing. White women did not speak of slaves. Thomas grew. He grew in silence. Other children cried. He did not. Other children ran and played and shouted. He sat alone, watching the earth, as if waiting for it to speak. Martha taught him. She took his finger and led it to a cotton plant. "This is water," she said. She dripped water onto his palm. Then she pressed his fingers into the dark soil. "This is earth." Then she placed his hand upon her heart. "And this is pain." Thomas listened. He could not speak, but he could hear everything. He heard his mother weep at night, silent tears so no one would know. He heard the whip crack open the morning air, before the sun had even risen. He heard the birds fly overhead, high above, where he would never go. He could not speak. But he could hear. And he could remember. At 4 years old, Thomas began to work. What could a mute child do? Work that required hands, not ears. He scattered grain for the chickens. He gathered kindling. He carried water from the creek to the kitchen, small buckets swinging at his sides. His mother worked the fields. He saw her at dawn, before the sun broke the horizon, and again at night, when the moon had already risen. The days were long. The Virginia heat was longer. In July, the sun paused in the sky as if forbidden to move. Cotton plants withered, the earth split open, and the backs of the enslaved split with it. Thomas watched. He watched how the overseer, a man called Mr. Brown, prayed at dawn and whipped slaves before noon. He watched how Captain Hale rode to church on Sunday and returned to read scripture to his slaves, "Servants, obey your masters." He watched how Elizabeth Hale came to the kitchen and told Mary the bread was overbaked, and Mary took the bread away, and her tears fell into the flour. Thomas watched everything. And he remained silent. In 1835, his sister was born. They named her Rebecca. She was not mute. She was beautiful, her eyes large and luminous, her laughter like shattering glass. Thomas loved her beyond measure. He took her to the creek, showed her the fish, the leaves, the birds. He could not speak, but he could show her everything. Rebecca spoke. She spoke constantly. "Brother, why does the water run? Brother, where do the clouds go? Brother, I heard that white people go to heaven when they die. Where will we go?" Thomas did not answer. He only stroked her hair. He did not know the answer. Thomas was 7 years old. One morning, Captain Hale announced, "I have debts to pay. Some slaves will be sold." Martha heard. She stood in the kitchen, her hands buried in dough, her face dusted white. She asked, quietly, "Who, sir?" The captain did not look at her. "Your daughter." Martha's breath stopped. "Sir, she is only 3 years old. She is healthy. She will fetch a good price." Martha fell to her knees. "Sir, I beg you." "Enough." "Sir, she is all I have." "I said enough." The captain pushed her aside. Martha fell. The dough scattered across the floor. Thomas stood behind the door. He heard everything. He saw everything. He saw his mother on the ground. He saw the white flour on her black face. He saw the expression in her eyes, an expression for which there is no name. The next morning, Rebecca was taken. She cried. She screamed. "Mama! Mama!" Martha kissed her for the last time. She touched her daughter's small hand. Then that hand was gone. Thomas watched from behind the door. He saw his sister in the cart, her small face wet with tears. He could not cry. He could not move. He could only watch. That night, Martha made sounds in her bed. She was weeping, but silently, as if afraid someone might hear. Thomas lay beside her. He took his mother's hand. He said nothing. He could say nothing. But he was there. After Rebecca was taken, Thomas changed. He had been silent before, now he became silence itself. He had watched before, now his watching became a kind of prayer. He understood that silence was a weapon. He could not speak, but he could see. And white people forgot he was there, and spoke freely in his presence. "Captain Hale says he will sell 3 more. Mrs. Hale is ill. The doctor says she has not long." A letter came from the north. Some slaves escaped. Thomas listened. Thomas remembered. One day, Mrs. Hale summoned him. She lay in her bed, her face pale, her eyes sunken. "Thomas," she said, "you cannot speak, can you?" He shook his head. "But you can hear?" He nodded. "Good. Then listen." She drew a ragged breath. "I am dying. Your master does not know, but I know. And I know that when I die, he will sell all of you." Thomas was silent. "Your mother is old. She cannot work much longer. He will sell her first." Her eyes filled with tears. "You must do something, Thomas. You must run." Thomas looked at her. He thought, this woman tells me to run. This woman whose husband sold my sister. This woman who reads her Bible every Sunday while slaves starve behind her house. But he said nothing. He remained silent. Mrs. Hale died. She died on a Sunday morning, while the church bells were ringing. Captain Hale buried her with great ceremony. In the white cemetery, a headstone of white marble, carved, "Beloved wife, beloved mother." Slaves were not permitted at the funeral. They watched from a distance. Thomas watched. He saw white people weeping. He saw them bring flowers, light candles, recite prayers. He thought, Where is my sister buried? Who will weep for her? Who will place flowers on her grave? No one. 1 week later, Martha fell ill. She collapsed in the cotton field. The overseer whipped her, but she could not rise. Thomas carried her to the cabin. He placed a cool cloth on her forehead. He gave her water. Martha looked at her son. "Child," she whispered, "I am so tired." Thomas held her hand. "You are so strong, my son. You have always been strong. Remember Rebecca. Remember me." "We are not going anywhere," he wanted to say. But he could not. He only held her hand. 3 days later, Martha died. Captain Hale said, "Bury her." No minister spoke. No bell tolled. No flowers. Thomas dug the grave himself. He was 12 years old. His hands were small, the shovel heavy, the earth hard. He dug deep. He laid his mother in the ground. He looked at her face one last time. Then he covered her with earth. That night, he sat beside the grave. He placed no stone. No marker. White people did not permit markers on slave graves. But Thomas remembered. He engraved it upon his heart, 3 steps east of the oak. 50 steps north of the creek. And he swore an oath, "I will never forget." After Martha died, Thomas began to count the graves. He knew every one. He knew that behind the old tobacco barn, where the grass grew tall, Sarah lay buried. She was 19, dead in childbirth. The child died too. Both in the same grave. He knew that at the edge of the woods, where the trees grew thick, Jacob lay buried. He had tried to run. They caught him. He died beneath the whip. No cross marked his resting place. He knew that at the bend in the creek, where the water ran deep, Eliza lay buried. She was only 14. Captain Hale's guest had taken her, and she never returned. Thomas remembered them all. He sat beside each grave, silent, for hours. He spoke to them, in his heart. Who were you? How did you die? Who will remember you? No one. But he would remember. In 1842, Captain Hale hired a new overseer. His name was Mr. Evans. He was younger than Mr. Brown, and quieter. He did not shout. He spoke softly. And when he whipped a man, he did it in silence. Thomas watched him. Evans cared nothing for the plantation. He cared only for the captain's daughter, whose name was Emma. She was 16, blue-eyed, golden-haired. Evans followed her everywhere. The slaves whispered, "This is not good." One afternoon, Thomas sat by the creek, watching the water, watching the birds. Evans came. He sat beside Thomas. "Why do you never speak?" he asked. Thomas did not answer. "I hear you are not deaf. You can hear. So why do you not speak?" Thomas was silent. "Are you afraid of me?" Thomas shook his head. "No." "Then why?" Thomas looked at the ground. He thought, because speaking changes nothing. My mother spoke, and she died. My sister spoke, and she was taken. Silence is the only thing that has ever protected me. But he said nothing. Evans rose and walked away. Thomas watched him go. He did not know that this man would change his life. Captain Hale's daughter, Emma, was with child. No one knew who the father was. But everyone knew. Evans. Captain Hale dismissed Evans from his position. But he did not call the sheriff. He did not press charges. Because if the truth emerged, his daughter's honor would be destroyed. Instead, he turned his rage upon the slaves. More whippings. Less food. Longer nights. Thomas watched. He remained silent. One night, he sat beside his mother's grave. There was no moon, the darkness absolute. He touched the earth. He breathed the soil. He listened to the wind. Then he felt another presence. He turned. Evans stood there. He was much changed. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. He looked starved, not for food, but for something else. "I have been following you," he said. "You come here every night." "Why?" Thomas was silent. "What is here?" Evans looked at the ground. "A grave." Thomas nodded. "Whose?" Thomas placed his hand on his chest. Then he pointed toward the earth. "Mother." Evans knelt. "I have heard you know every grave," he said. "Every slave who died here. Every infant stillborn. Every woman buried with her child." Thomas nodded. Evans looked at him. His eyes were strange. "You must come with me," he said. Evans led Thomas to the edge of the forest. There stood an old shed, abandoned for years. Evans opened the door. Inside, a small table, a candle, paper. "I am writing," Evans said. "Everything. The captain's crimes. The names of the dead. The dates of their deaths. Everything he has hidden." He lit the candle. His face emerged from darkness. "I know I am a wicked man," he said. "I have done wicked things. But if I carry this to my grave, what use is it?" Thomas looked at the papers on the table. They were covered in names, dates, locations. "You know every grave," Evans said. "You can tell me. You can show me where they lie. I will write it down." Thomas remained silent. He did not trust this man. This man had whipped slaves. This man had defiled the captain's daughter. But he spoke truth. And Thomas had nothing left to lose. He nodded. That night, their alliance began. Every Wednesday, when the moon was dark, Thomas came to the shed. He pointed to graves. Evans wrote. Sarah, 1821, behind the barn. Jacob, 1825, at the forest edge. Eliza, 1832, at the bend of the creek. Martha, 1840, beneath the oak. Rebecca. Thomas stopped. Evans looked at him. "Who is Rebecca?" Thomas closed his eyes. He saw his sister's face. Her laughter. Her small hands. He lowered his head. "She did not die," Evans said softly. "She was sold." "Was she not?" Thomas nodded. "You do not know where she is." Thomas shook his head. Evans was silent. Then he wrote. Rebecca, daughter of Martha, sold 1838. Location unknown. Thomas stared at those words. Location unknown. He would never know where his sister was buried. But he could remember the others. 6 years had passed. Evans's journal was full. Hundreds of names. Dozens of graves. Years of crimes. Evans said, "It is finished. I will send this north." To whom? Thomas signed. To those who would end slavery. They will print it. Everyone will know. Thomas looked at him. "And you?" Evans smiled, but his smile was sad. "I do not matter. I have waited too long. But you must run, Thomas. When this becomes known, the captain will hunt you. He will know you showed me the graves." Thomas nodded. He knew. But he could not leave yet. Not yet. February 1847. Snow fell. In Virginia, snow rarely came, but this year it came heavily. A white shroud covered everything: fields, forest, graves. Thomas thought, now all the graves are hidden. But I know where they are. One night, he went to the shed. Evans was not there. No journal lay on the table. No papers. Only a single candle, burning. Thomas waited. An hour passed. Then 2. Then he heard footsteps outside. Not Evans's steps. These were heavy, slow, deliberate. The door opened. Captain Hale stood there. In his hands, he held the journal. Evans's journal. His face was white as the snow. His eyes burned red. "So," he said softly. "It was you." The mute slave. Sitting silent, watching everything. Thomas was silent. Evans confessed. "I whipped him, and he told me everything. You showed him the graves. You testified against me." He raised the journal. "I will burn this. And I will burn you." Thomas looked at him. There was no fear in his eyes. Captain Hale threw the journal into the fire. The pages caught, curling black at the edges, the ink dissolving, the names vanishing. Thomas watched. Sarah burned. Jacob burned. Eliza burned. His mother burned. All burning. Then the captain turned to Thomas. "Do you know what I will do with you now?" Thomas nodded. "I will sell you. New Orleans. You will forget these graves." Thomas closed his eyes. He heard his mother's voice, "You are so strong, my son." He heard his sister's laughter, "Brother, where do the clouds go?" He heard his own heart, still beating. Then he opened his eyes. And he spoke. "No?" Captain Hale recoiled. His face shifted. Not anger, astonishment. Fear? "You speak?" Thomas said, "I have always been able to speak." His voice was strange, rough, broken, rusted from years of disuse. But it was his voice. "I did not stop speaking because I could not speak. I stopped because speaking served no purpose." Captain Hale stared at him as though he were a ghost. "You have deceived me. All these years. You deceived yourself," Thomas said. "You believed silence was weakness. But silence is strength. Silence allowed me to see everything. To hear everything. To remember everything." He stood. He was 16 years old, but he looked like a man. A man who had seen too much. "You can burn the journal," he said. "But you cannot burn my heart. I know every name. I know every grave. And as long as I live, they are not dead." Captain Hale stepped forward. "You think you are wise? You are nothing but a slave. You are nothing." Thomas looked into his eyes. "I am what you will never be. I am what you will never understand. I am free." Captain Hale laughed. But his laugh held fear. "Free? You are my property. You are my chattel." Thomas said, "My mother taught me what pain is. My sister taught me what love is. Every grave on this land taught me what justice is. You taught me nothing. You are not my master." Captain Hale raised his whip. But Thomas was already at the door. He paused. He looked back. "Your wife," he said. "She was good. She told me to run." Captain Hale froze. "She knew who you were. She knew what you would become. And she loved you still." His eyes held tears. "I do not know what love is. But I know you lost hers. And you never had mine." Then he vanished into the darkness. Thomas Hale ran that night. No one knows where he went. Some say he went north, to Canada, where he lived free. Some say he went to other plantations, to show other slaves the graves, to teach them to remember their dead. Some say he never left Virginia at all, but lived in the forests, emerging at night to tend the graves he loved. Captain Hale searched for him. He offered rewards, summoned the sheriff, sent dogs into the woods. But Thomas was never found. He vanished. As though he had never existed at all. Virginia. The plantation was no longer a plantation. Wild grass covered the fields. White wildflowers grew where cotton once stood. The slave cabins had collapsed into the earth. Captain Hale had died long ago. His daughter, Emma, was an old woman. Her hair was white, her back bent. She still lived in the house. Alone. One day, an old man came. His beard was white, his face lined with years, his eyes deep and knowing. He went to the oak tree. He knelt. He placed his hand upon the earth. Emma watched from the door. "Who are you?" she called. The old man looked at her. "I am Thomas Hale," he said. "I have returned." Emma's breath caught. "You live?" Thomas nodded. "I made a promise. I said I would never forget." He rose. He looked across the land. "The graves," he said. "They are still here." Emma opened the door. Slowly, she approached him. "My father searched for you," she said. "For years." "I know. He spoke of you until his death." He said, "That slave who stopped speaking." Thomas was silent. "He was afraid of you," Emma said. "Did you know?" Thomas looked at her. "Yes." Emma studied his face. "Can you forgive?" Thomas did not answer. He turned again to the earth. Thomas remained on the plantation for 3 days. He visited every grave. He knelt, silent, for hours. He remembered Sarah, Jacob, Eliza. He remembered his mother. Beneath the oak, he sat for a long time. His hand rested on the ground. "Mother," he whispered. "I have come home." Tears ran down his face. "I never forgot you." On the 3rd day, he went to the creek. It had changed. The water was low, the banks dry. But the place remained. He knelt. "Rebecca," he said. "My little sister." He closed his eyes. "I never searched for you. I did not know where to look. I sold you in my heart, as surely as they sold you from my arms." He touched the earth. "But I never forgot you." He remained there for a long time. When he opened his eyes, Emma stood beside him. "I found something," she said. "For you." In her hands, she held an old journal. Burned edges. Blackened cover. But the pages, visible at the edge, were intact. "My father thought it had burned," she said. "But I saved it. I hid it." Thomas took the journal. He opened the first page. Sarah, 1821, behind the barn. Jacob, 1825, at the forest edge. Eliza, 1832, at the bend of the creek. Martha, 1840, beneath the oak. Rebecca, daughter of Martha, sold 1838. Location unknown. His finger traced the words. Location unknown. But now he understood. Rebecca was nowhere. Rebecca was everywhere. She was in his heart. Thomas remained on the plantation for 3 days. He visited every grave. He knelt, silent, for hours. He remembered Sarah, Jacob, Eliza. He remembered his mother. Beneath the oak, he sat for a long time. His hand rested on the ground. "Mother," he whispered. "I have come home." Tears ran down his face. "I never forgot you." On the 3rd day, he went to the creek. It had changed. The water was low, the banks dry. But the place remained. He knelt. "Rebecca," he said. "My little sister." He closed his eyes. "I never searched for you. I did not know where to look. I sold you in my heart, as surely as they sold you from my arms." He touched the earth. "But I never forgot you." He remained there for a long time. When he opened his eyes, Emma stood beside him. "I found something," she said. "For you." In her hands, she held an old journal. Burned edges. Blackened cover. But the pages, visible at the edge, were intact. "My father thought it had burned," she said. "But I saved it. I hid it." Thomas took the journal. He opened the first page. Sarah, 1821, behind the barn. Jacob, 1825, at the forest edge. Eliza, 1832, at the bend of the creek. Martha, 1840, beneath the oak. Rebecca, daughter of Martha, Sold 1838. Location unknown. His finger traced the words. Location unknown. But now he understood. Rebecca was nowhere. Rebecca was everywhere. She was in his heart. Today, nothing remains of that Virginia plantation. The house has fallen. The fields have returned to forest. The creek has shifted course. But the oak tree still stands. It is immense now, ancient. Its branches reach toward the sky like a man in prayer. Beneath it, the earth is smooth. Grass grows. Wildflowers bloom in season. No graves are visible. No stones. No crosses. But they are there. Martha is there. Sarah is there. Jacob is there. Eliza is there. And Thomas Hale is there. The slave who could not speak. The slave who stopped speaking. The slave who knew every hidden grave on the plantation. He is silent no longer. His voice lives in these pages. His memory lives in those graves. His love lives in the earth that was his mother, his sister, his home. And as long as we tell his story, he will never die.